Welcome to Americana Archives. Today's headline is The Spirit of Thanksgiving. It says, as we read of old-time Thanksgiving customs, we realize that the world has been traveling fast since then, away from the simple and the spiritual. One of the customs particularly was quaint. After the Thanksgiving dinner, while the family was still seated around the table, each member was asked to tell for what in the past year he was particularly thankful. These recitals were always revelations of character. The small children of the family mentioned some material thing, a sled or a doll, for which they were grateful. The other children, those in their teens, were more abstract. They were thankful for the advantages of education, of family prestige, or their social position, a bit self-centered perhaps, as is wont with youth in its teens. But mother and father, in their maturity of years, knew that the greatest blessings of life were health and happiness, and their recitals of thankfulness always included a word of thanksgiving that the family had been spared illness and poverty. No thought for themselves, but thankful of son's success in school and daughter's improvement in controlling her temper. The spirit of the day calls for just such a touch of spiritual introspection. It keeps alive that family spirit, the joy of an assembled family, the particular source of thanksgiving to each member, along with the joy of the old-fashioned dinner. Old-time Thanksgiving. A quaint account of a Thanksgiving dinner back in 1779 is given in a letter of one Julianna Smith, written to her dear cousin Betsy, found in an old diary. This year it was Uncle Simeon's turn to have the dinner at his house, but of course we all help them as they help us when it's our turn, and there's always enough for all of us to do. All the baking of pies and cakes was done at our house, and we had the big oven heated and filled twice each day for 3 days before it was all done and everything was good, though we did have to do without some things that ought to be used. Neither love nor money could buy raisins, but our good red cherries dried without the pits did almost as well, and happily Uncle Simeon still had some spices in store. The tables were set in the dining hall, and even that big room had no space to spare when we were all seated. The servants had enough ado to get around the tables and serve us all without oversetting things. There were our 2 grandmothers, side by side. They are always handsome old ladies, but now many thought they were handsomer than ever, and happy they were to look upon so many of their descendants. The crown of the feast. There was no plum pudding, but a boiled suet pudding stirred thick with dried plums and cherries was called by the old name and answered the purpose. All the other spice had been used in the mince pie, so for this pudding we used a jar of West India preserved ginger, which chanced to be left to the last shipment which Uncle Simeon had from there. We chopped the ginger small and stirred it through with the plums and cherries. It was extraordinarily good. The day was bitter cold, and when we got home from meeting, which father did not keep over long by reason of the cold, we were glad of the fire in Uncle's dining hall. But by the time the dinner was 1/2 over, those of us who were on the fireside of one table were forced to get up and carry our plates around to the far side of the other table, while those who had sat there were glad to bring their plates around to the fireside to get warm. All but the old ladies who had a screen put behind their chairs. We also have a second story, with the headline saying, Reasons for Giving Thanks. The subheadline says, as a nation, the American people has ample cause for rejoicing at this period. It says, it is 300 years since Thanksgiving Day was first celebrated on the American continent. The Pilgrim Band, though they had lost half their numbers during the first winter at Plymouth, and though they were beset by hardships and by the fear of their savage neighbors, found in the survival of the little colony and in the hope of a gradually ameliorating lot, just cause for thanksgiving to God. Have we who have inherited the institutions and the spiritual ideals that they labor to establish less reason than they to be thankful? Like the other nations of the world, the United States has reached a great social and political crisis. We have passed through a great war, and we begin to feel the burden of debt and disaster that the war laid upon mankind. Our trade is disarranged. Neither financially nor economically are we so prosperous as we are wont to be. We are a little afraid of the future, for we have been shaken out of the easy and comfortable confidence in our efficiency in which we have been used to live. But great material prosperity is not always a matter for thanksgiving. It sometimes softens and dissipates the strength and virtue of a nation. Perhaps nations like men should echo the prayer of Agur, give me neither poverty nor riches. We have enough, and like the pilgrims, we can reasonably hope for an increasing store of comforts in the coming years. Is there not ample cause for thanksgiving in the fact that although the nation has been tried by adversity and loss and assailed by doubt and misgivings, it shows no sign of losing its heart or its head? The gospel of hard work and cheerful courage still counts most Americans as its adherents. We are working our way out of the depression that the war caused. We do not thank God because our way is the way of fatness and of peace, but because in the time of testing and trial, our people are able to quit themselves like men. These stories came from the great state of Missouri, being reported in the Chariton Courier of November 24, 1922. Thank you for joining us today. If you've enjoyed this video, we'd appreciate it if you'd hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and if you'd like and comment below. We'll be going on an indefinite hiatus for the time being. We want to thank God and we want to thank all of you for your continued support and viewership. We appreciate you watching for these past 2 years, and we've had an incredible time making all these videos for you, and we truly hope that you've enjoyed them. We look forward to seeing you again soon in the future, and until then, we'll see you next time on Americana Archives.